Hello everyone, welcome to Eternal Brews. My name is Pocho, and today we're going to be looking at a new twist on our old favorite, Greedthorn. And this is Super Greedthorn. We're going to be talking about basically how to be greedy and do ridiculous nonsense with Marshal Ironthorn. This is one of my favorite decks to build, so we tend to build it for pretty much every set, and this is the most recent one, the one that I actually got Masters with this month. So this was a lot of fun to play, and it's a really, really delightful deck in general. The basic idea behind it is that we are using two very, very serious ramp sources, Mask of Torment and Marshal Ironthorn, to try to gain basically a permanent amount of power up to around 10 or 12. Once we're at 10 or 12, we can cast cards like A New Tomorrow and 8 of the Hooru to put ourselves in a position where basically, it's really, really hard to lose the game simply because we have so many bomb cards in hand and so many just general cards in hand that we can play over our opponent. So we outgreed our opponent and outlast our opponent with just a very, very heavy control list. So the basics, of course, we run Ironthorn to play additional copies of power that we have, as well as to ultimate pay 15 to kill all enemy units. And that ultimate actually comes up quite a bit in this deck because after New Tomorrowing, playing Ironthorn on 5 tends to have us with 20 power, so we can immediately one-sided wrath our opponent's board. There's a reason we like Ironthorn in this list. He's a very, very good late-game card. He's an okay mid-game card, even sometimes a card that you want to play on 5, although not typically, only if you are really, really certain that you have other ramp sources that you can run to, or that you absolutely need him to survive. But yeah, this guy is really, really solid. He's one of the biggest sort of finishers in the deck, and he's also just a good enabler for the deck and one of the sort of core cards. The other core card is Mask of Torment, a 4-cost Time Shadow relic that of course gives you +1 maximum power, and whenever you life force or gain life, you get another +1 maximum power. At the ultimate of 20, you get to play an 8/8 Tormentor, the guy who basically has all of these skills, deals a bunch of damage, and when he dies, plays more Spitelings. So the Tormentor can end the game in the air, or he can end the game on the ground after dying. He's very, very hard to deal with, he reaps a lot of card advantage, and he's not free, he costs 20, but he'll say he is anyways. So yeah, this guy is a pretty solid finisher as well. It's the two things that we're looking for in the deck. Like, these two sort of supply the core theme of the deck, and it's a good theme if you can actually repeat it, because that way we actually have multiple options to get that kind of ramp together so we can get the bigger stuff. So let's talk about the bigger stuff. First off, we have added the new end cards. These are recommended crafts for legendaries from Fall of Argenport. I think that all of them are pretty useful. I rate End of the Line highest out of all of them, actually. Like, I've played with all 5 of them, and my general impression is that End of the Line is actually one of the better ones, just because it's the most flexible and the most capable of stabilizing you in a bad situation, which is something that the other end cards often don't do. Even End of the Story, which is sort of a really high cost sort of harsh rule type effect. End of the Line tends to basically come out in the same way that a Black Sky Harbinger might. It deals a bunch of damage, kills some amount of units on the board, and gains you a bunch of life, which is useful for activating life force activations like Mask of Torment, but also helps for stabilizing when you're in a bad spot. So if you're using this against some sort of Rakano deck or against some sort of Skycrag list, this will almost instantly put the game from entirely out of your hands into entirely in your favor. I'm really, really strongly for this card. I highly recommend that you play with it if you haven't tried it before, just because in control lists in Shadow, like, it is actually really spectacular, and I do actually rank this card higher than all of the other ends. The other end that we run is End of the Story, which of course has a lot of value as well, especially against the TJP Alessi lists that are happening right now. It is a harsh rule with Warp, which means that you get some card advantage out of it, and that's really nice. The one more expense is really bad against Aggro style decks, but it's better against the combo decks like Alessi because A, you don't have to spend the card to actually get the Wrath, and B, if you get the Tribute, then you get to knock out units with Aegis. This is really effective against Champion of Cunning, it's really effective against anything that's using Stand Together, which is a fairly common card at this point in the meta, and yeah, it's just very powerful in general. This card is probably like up in the second or third of the ends, and it's also just a very, very strong choice. We aren't running End of Hostilities in this deck. It's hilarious if you play play it, and you certainly can play copies of it if you like, but it doesn't get you out ahead from a position of being behind. And this deck generally aims to lag behind a little bit in the early game, and then stabilize in the late game with some sort of big, fantastic spell. So, end of the story, end of the line are good options for that. We also use Touch of the Umbren, a lifesteal curse that steals the cursed units. I really like this against the mid-range lists. This is good if you want to steal a Sandstorm Titan or a World-Bearer Behemoth. It's very easy to get, and the lifesteal helps you to ramp with Mask of Torment, which is also really useful. And just being able to grab a Heart of the Vault or any sort of big mid-range unit, or even to steal like an Ikaria after knocking out its Aegis with some sort of other ability, really helps you out quite a bit and can get you into a position of really extreme strength against a lot of different decks. I like this card a lot. You have to be careful to play it basically on units that are mostly already out, because you won't get any value out of it if you steal an exhausted unit. It doesn't ready that unit. But I find this card to be really powerful in the same way that End of the Line is powerful. Not quite as good, but definitely capable of turning around the mid-range style lists and getting some of those really, really nasty cards, including the engine cards, the Jotun Feast Callers, or the World-Bearer Behemoths, or even if your opponent is playing Shadowlands Tyrant for some reason, or a Millie. It's actually really, really strong against a Millie. So yeah, this is a really, really good way to grab some useful card of your opponents, and like anything else in our big end, like top end list, it really reaps a lot of card advantage. So those are the stabilizers. These are the cards that in the middle of the game, once we've gotten our ramp out, are almost immediately playable and can do a lot of good things. Finally, at the top, we have A New Tomorrow, which plays the top 10 power cards from your deck depleted. Everyone knows that I love this card a lot. It is really, really solid for basically just putting you into a position where you're always going to draw good cards. And it also, with the new crests, well, not that new, but with any crests, allows you to sort your entire deck and get the very best card that you need, in addition to putting you up at 20 so that you can use whatever that card is with impunity. So if you want to put an Ironthorn on top of your decks, you can blow out your opponent. That's really great. If you want to go for 8 of the Hooru, this will usually get you to 8 of the Hooru very, very quickly. And after that, you just keep drawing gas every turn. It's very hard for your opponent to win after A New Tomorrow unless they do it the exact turn after A New Tomorrow. So finding the space and breath to cast this card is hard, but once you have it down, man, it's amazing. So I really do like this card a lot. This is noted as one of my favorite cards in the game, and it's really, really solid still. So do love it, and lots of fun. Finally, 8 of the Hooru, our 12 cost, stun each enemy unit, play 2 4/4 owls with flying, draw 4 cards, gain 4 armor. Does everything you want it to do, stabilizes, stuns, gets the board fairly clear, gives you some advantage on the board in terms of flyers, and gets you a bunch of cards that you can play out and win the game. Typically, casting 8 of the Hooru is the end of the game. Against certain control lists, it can be a little bit more different. But like regardless, this is still like a really, really powerful card. It's the sort of payoff of all of your ramp. There are a lot of other expensive cards that we can play even if we don't ramp too much, and this one's just a really, really strong list. Okay. So, since this is Fall of Argenport, we now have a market, and having a market allows us to do a lot of interesting things. We talked a little bit about markets before, and we always try to discuss what our market choices are, but I'm going to go ahead and go into markets a little bit more today as we talk about the brews. We'll probably do a video on this at some point since we're getting the hang of markets, I think. So, Aurelian Merchant, we love this merchant because it allows us to play a lot of very useful cards very quickly. The +1 maximum power means that we can basically just dump any sort of 5-cost card like Ironthorn immediately after playing it, which is really, really good, and it also allows us to ramp into some other big stuff, so that gives us some interesting things to play around with. Okay, so we get to swap our time cards. The cards that I've chosen are Combre Banner for the green. Green is actually a lesser source in this version of Greedthorn because we're so happy with our Shadow Lifesteal stuff. We're mostly just using Ironthorn and End of the Story, but we do need double green for that, so being able to pick a Combre Banner out of the list really helps out when our main sources are going to be more focused around time and shadow. Disjunction allows us to kill an attachment or steal one of our Mask of Torments back if it got blown up for some reason. Typically, you don't need your Mask of Torments back. Most of the time, if your opponent is spending time destroying your ramp, then you have other big threats to play and you can take control of the board in other ways, but this is really handy for getting rid of their cards as well as for, like returning a mask that has a lot of charge on it and is really, really beneficial to you. So yeah, it's a really flexible card. It's very quick to play. We sometimes run Passage of Eons, the 6-cost destroy all attachments and silence all units in this splat, but I found that this was just a little bit more flexible and usable, and we wanted something low cost to actually have an impact in these types of games. We actually get to put Mask of Torment in the market since this is a combo piece that we really want. So being able to play it immediately very much helps out. Mask of Torment is a very powerful card, of course, and we want to be able to draw it consistently. So we make it so that we have 7 different ways to draw Mask of Torment. Cirso's Cleaver gives Killer to a unit. It plays immediately after Aurelian Merchant. It's in the right colors for us, and it tends to render around 2 to 3 cards worth of advantage. We get the Killer effect to murder something, and we get a free feeding time, or a mostly free feeding time, that allows us to knock something out for good. This is a pretty beneficial card. I'm actually running one of these in the main board now, and I'm enjoying it pretty well. It's certainly an optional pick. You don't have to run this legendary, but it is fairly interesting, and I'm actually really enjoying it in the main and in the side. Finally, we get one a New Tomorrow because that's a really fun card to pick up, and very frequently will be at around 13 power and need something to do, basically just need gas. So New Tomorrow is a good way to finish the game. This is the card that we always want to have, and yeah, definitely good to have a copy of it. Okay, other things that the deck is running. We're running 4 Banishes because we want to be able to have relic removal and small unit removal. We're running Veteran Strategist. This card is actually really good against the TJP Alessi decks and Teacher of Humility in particular, just because getting a really small unit down against Teacher of Humility early really helps out for your control list. The gain 1 health and an influence of your choice is pretty powerful. This is not like a very strong card in general, so we don't run too many copies of it, but it happens to be really useful in certain situations, and we've generally found it to be pretty helpful. So I like this card quite a bit. We're also running Temple Scribes to draw cards and gain influence, and that really helps us out too. This is just a really useful fixer, helps out against Teacher. We want to have multiple answers to Teacher, and this is just one extra one in addition to Banish and Ayan the Abductor, all of which do lots and lots of work in the deck. Ayan, of course, gives us some value in terms of the mid-range, gives us lifesteal effects for Mask of Torment. Basically, every card in this deck is doing a lot of different jobs and a lot of different work, but they all synergize together really well. Like, they're looking for lifesteal options, they're looking for card advantage options, and they're looking for ways to stabilize a board in a bad situation. And Ayan does all 3, so he's definitely in the list. Beyond that, of course, we do have Ironthorn, we have all of this stuff, but other things that are kind of special, we have to find the way to make sure that we have extra power as well as seek power, because consistently playing power every turn is basically the primary goal of this deck from turns 1 through 6. Finally, we have Corrupt. This is a one of in the deck because it is very situational and doesn't really work very well if you have multiple copies of it, but I found that one copy of it tends to be really good both in control matchups and as a way to defend your Marshal Ironthorn, because oftentimes what happens with Marshal Ironthorn is he gets targeted immediately by a Vanquish or a Slay, and if you can Corrupt, you can often turn the tables around, get another ramp out of Ironthorn, and get quite a lot of benefit from him. The other thing that Corrupt is really good at is stealing something like a Channel the Tempest. It won't do it if your opponent has a face Aegis, but if you Corrupt a Channel the Tempest in a game that is fairly close, control versus control, you'll win the game basically immediately, and that actually has happened to me very frequently with Corrupt. So I like this card as a one-of. It's just a really interesting card to dig up in your larger control lists, and it's a fairly useful card in the early game to defend some of your key pieces, including Mask of Torment and Marshal Ironthorn. So yeah, we like this card. You can certainly run Backlash or something like that in this list. Yeah, so Legendary Supplementation, you can certainly do a lot of different things to make this deck cheaper if you need to. I do recommend crafting End of the Line, End of the Story, because they're just really useful cards. I think that Mask of Torment is very useful in general, and there's a lot of good Mask decks out there. I also think the same of Ironthorn, so these are all sort of recommended crafts for me, but obviously you don't need to run cards like Touch of the Umbren or Cirso's Cleaver if you don't really want to. You don't have to craft as many Aid of the Hooru as I do, and you probably don't need 2 New Tomorrow. You can run off of just 1 in this deck pretty easily. So we'll probably post a popper list after this game is over, but for the moment, let's go ahead and play a couple games with it and show off the list. All right, see you guys in just a moment. Cheers. All right, here we are up against Messe 3ES. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce that, but well, we'll see what they're up to. So we've got Crest of Progress, Crest of Mystery, and Justice Sigil. That's not to play this Mask of Torment. There is some problems with this particular hand, the main one being that we have two of our extremely high-cost cards. These cards don't usually come into play until the late game. I'm kind of tempted to take this anyways because it's got double Crest, which means that we're pretty consistently going to be playing power. The main problem is if our opponent is playing aggro, this is a loser hand. I think I'm okay with that for the moment. I think we can try and find something good, and with double time we can pick up cards like Temple Scribe that help stabilize as well. So yeah, it seems reasonable to go ahead and keep this hand, but it's a real close one as far as things are concerned. Crest of Progress gets us extra power, allows us to sort a little bit more, and we're guaranteed to get Mask of Torment on 4, which then catapults us into end of the line. I think I take this card. And we're just, like I said, oftentimes this deck's goal in the first couple of turns is just to play power consistently every turn. We do need some form of gas, but actually just seeing a Feln card means that we might be in less trouble than usual. Nope, Twilight Raptor, this is Feln aggro with Berserk nonsense. So we're going to try to find some sort of stabilizers. End of the line is going to be really helpful against this deck, but in general we got to get ourselves ramping as fast as possible. Aurelian Merchant's going to help with that a lot. Okay, so Aurelian Merchant can dig into our market. Cards like Cirso's Cleaver help here a lot, but I don't have any blue, so that's kind of an issue. I might just pick up Cumbre Banner so that we have consistent power up into end of the line, which is going to be our big stabilizer. We'll see if there's going to be a Dusk Raider here, some kind of good 2-drop, or if it's just going to be more Twilight Raptors. Ooh, if it were 2 Twilight Raptors, I would have been very, very upset, but I think we're good now. We'll just play the Justice Sigil here, grab the Aurelian Merchant, and exchange 8 of the Hooru, I think, for a Cumbre Banner. Alright, cool. Alright, so generally you're fine shipping off your 8 of the Hooru. You always have big stuff to draw into. So as long as you are just playing consistent cards every turn, you're gonna get to your big stuff pretty quickly. So there's no worry about like holding onto it and keeping it intact. As we're currently standing, I feel pretty good about this. Mask of Torment gets us the extra power. Seek Power will allow us to search for blue, which is going to be really useful, and then we can just kill these 2 Twilight Raptors, and we'll stabilize from a fairly bad position, which is exactly what we want to do. So let's go ahead and play the Cumbre Banner here. Seek Power for a Primal, and then with the Primal we'll be able to play end of the line, and we'll be able to just kill these Twilight Raptors and get ourselves back up to speed. Feel pretty good. Like, that's a full 6 life. That almost gets us entirely back up to 25, and it's a 2-for-1 in card exchange, which, yeah, we're absolutely into. My opponent's got a pause here. I'm curious what it is. Could be just like a counterspell. No, looks like it's a Wisdom of the Elders. Okay, so we'll grab this Primal here, because that's a source that we need. We do need... Oh. I need a double shadow there. I was not paying attention. That's okay. We'll see if we can draw it. Crest of Progress will help out with that, but I'm going to be a little bit on the slow side. So, primary mistakes. You do have to keep track of your influence costs pretty heavily here. Shadow is most important, or Shadow and Time are most important. Time is typically very easy to get. Shadow's a little bit tougher. So yeah, we'll play the Crest of Progress here. I can't play End of the Line. That's fine. There's my Shadow source, so I'll be able to do it there. We lose about 4 health off of that, but I also get to hold up Corrupt, which could help out with some other things like Rain of Frogs or Sabotage or anything along those lines, and I'll be able to play it after End of the Line, which is also very helpful. So we'll see if my opponent decides to throw like a Fiending Time or something here and give me something to play. Oh, Honored Skyguard. That's a better target for End of the Line, although he's probably going to get the discard draw right away. Yep, okay. Temple Shihan's out. That would be a pretty powerful card for him, so I'm very glad that that's gone. And yeah. Anything else? Nope, looks like that's it. Okay, so now we play our Shadow Source. We end of the line and kill those 2. And I can attack for 1 here pretty easy. That's not going to be a problem. Now I'm up to New Tomorrow, which means that I can cast it. We're in a pretty stable position to cast New Tomorrow, which is the entire point of End of the Line, getting us to a healthy position so that we can cast New Tomorrow, and then we don't have to worry too much about what the rest of the aggro is going to do. So yeah, we feel really comfy with that. Another Twilight Raptor is certainly a mess, but I think my opponent was playing around like Hailstorms or something like that. Once I play this undepleted Sigil, then I'll have New Tomorrow, and I'll feel pretty good about life. Plus, I've got Corrupt up, so I'm not going to lose the ramp off of Aurelian Merchant to some sort of single target spell, which is great. Alright, here we go. New Tomorrow. I'm at 15 right now, so he's got to do 15 or more to me in 1 turn. He can do 8, 6, 12, 14 with a Berserk and a Rapid Shot, which would be pretty rough. But I think that we should be okay and have a pretty good chance at hitting that 8 of the Hooru, now that we're going to play all of our crests out and get just a ton of value out of that. So yeah, feels really comfy. This is going to be pretty good stuff. I think we're looking pretty good here. Ayan the Abductor, that's a good stabilizer, but it doesn't help against flyers, so I'm not really into it. Strategize, nah, we'll pass on that. Brilliant Merchant, nah, don't need it. End of the line, now that one's pretty interesting. Now this would stabilize me against the 2/2s. It's definitely a good way to gain some health and get ourselves to the point where we can just use the Tormentor to win. So we could keep this, but I think I'm actually going to keep look for our 8 of the Hooru, because it's the best card, and we know that it is, so we're going to try to play it. Okay. I might have bet a little too hard there. It is possible that we could draw something bad here, but we have Temple Scribe, we have Corrupt. We have a decent amount of draw here to get to a good card, and we don't have any power on top of our deck, so it's very, very easy to just draw gas over and over and over again for the next couple of turns. Okay, didn't get Rapid Shot Berserked, so this game's probably going to be over in a couple of turns here. I don't think that we should have any major issues, but you never know. Okay, Champion of Cunning, that's a rough card. Cirso's Cleaver allows us to kill it pretty easy, so let's go ahead and Temple Scribe here. Ayan the Abductor, that's a great card for this. Let's go ahead and say, play him. Cirso's Cleaver him. Kill the Champion of Cunning forever. And then 6/6 kills the 4/2, gains 6 life. That's a pretty good stabilizer. We feel really good about that. Attack for 1. And I've still got Corrupt up. I can use Ayan to resurrect something, but I actually have nothing in my Void because my opponent has been sorely focused on just killing me. So we'll see what we can do. Alright, I want to see a single target removal spell. Let's see like a Rindra's Choice here. Let's go. What do we got? I got a 6/6 life steal. What can you do? This is the fun of Corrupt. Like, my opponent hasn't played... he could have Channel the Tempest in his deck. That could be his sort of finisher. He might be going for a more mid-rangey list with a bunch of flyers, and then, yeah, just good stuff. We'll see. Anyways, Feeding Time kills the Crow. That's it for the Twilight Raptor. And now we have the board, and we have Mask of Torment fully active, so we can play our Tormentor. That's 8 + 6 + 2. So a good 16 damage versus 21. Looks like I'm not going to be gaining life off of the 6/6, but, you know, that still feels pretty good. Alright, I am free. Ha 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 ha. And we'll swing in. Seek Power is the one dud card that you can still draw off of New Tomorrow, but if you don't mind getting it every now and then, it's certainly fine to keep in the deck. You could go extra power sources so that you don't have that kind of issue, but I don't recommend it. I think it's generally better to just go ahead and play out what you can. Alright, Permafrost is a little rough because it does disable the 8/8 without getting us into a better position, but we feel fine about it. We'll probably find ourselves end of the line at some point soon. So, 8 of the Hooru here. Looks like I got Touch of the Umbren a turn too late, but I'm actually pretty into just stealing the champion anyway, since it buffs everything on my board. Yeah, let's just steal it. That gets it out of my hair, and then I get to buff up my owls, which is also solid. So we attack for 2 there. I've got Ayan to ambush in, so I'm not going to do anything else. And, yep, suddenly we got a champion buff on everything because we have more influence than he does. I'll actually get to 5 blue at some point, which means that I should be able to keep myself alive with Champion of Cunning because it's going to get Aegis. So that feels really good. Alright, Ayan the Abductor bounces in, and now I think this game is very much over. We have pretty much everything we need, so yep, cool. Exploding, lots of fun. And yeah, as you can see, this deck is really, really good against at stabilizing against all but the most aggro of aggro. You can throw Hailstorms in if you're feeling really like there's a lot of aggressive meta going on, but my experience with the meta up through Diamond and up into Master has been that it's pretty slow decks, a lot of TJP Alessi, a lot of like Praxis tokeny stuff, which is kind of a little bit upsetting, but like for the most part, it's not very fast right now, which is a really good time to take out the Greedthorn deck and just basically go over the top of everything. And yeah, we really like it that way. Alright, here we are up against Nozo, and looks like the opener is Crest of Vengeance, Justice Sigil, and Find the Way, Seek Power. Okay, yeah, looks like this is all the early stuff that we want. I get to Seek Power for time so I can find the way. I get to Strategize if I need to. I could grab Primal to Strategize instead of Finding the Way, but I think we're definitely on the Find the Way train because Find the Way allows us to get more blue sources and more sources of the colors we need. We'll play Crest first, since Seek Power is probably going to be second. Marshal Ironthorn, I've already got 6 sources of power, so yeah, we definitely want him here. I've got the double green that I need. I've got basically all of the influence I need. So yeah, we just play Ironthorn and go to town, and it should be a delightful time. So Seed of Vengeance first, seek powers for blue, probably. Touch of the Umbren feels like a good capstone to this sort of top end that we've got. We've got all the power we need, so feels comfy. Grab the blue so that we can strategize. I probably will not strategize Find the Way Away, although it is usually the most useful thing to do. Yeah, okay. I made an error here not grabbing time, so not punished for it, but nonetheless, I think we're okay. I think we've made that influence error in both of the games that we've recorded. It's not terribly common for us, but gotta keep a closer eye on it today. Alright, so play the Temple Scribe. Now I can play Mask of Torment, which immediately allows me to play Ironthorn on 5. That's the kind of curve that we're really after. And my opponent's playing slow Feln stuff. We're generally really comfy against slow Feln. We've got the Corrupt, we've got a lot of good answers, End of Days and other things like that really help, so yeah. It's very easy to get some good benefits out of that. Now, there's nothing too Corrupt 2 for Ironthorn, so I'm not super in need of playing it here. I might just find the way for a Time or a Primal source, and I think in this case it's going to be a Time source so that I can play Temple Scribe. Just because there's not a lot of good targets for Corrupt at the moment, and we'll probably use it later on against something a little bit more rough. Okay, so Jotun Feast color's out. That feels fine. We'll just play double time sources. I could seek here for a blue. If I seek for a blue and play the blue, I still have the 7 power to play Cirso's Cleaver. It would be really nice to knock the Aegis off of this so I could touch of the Umbren, but I'm not in a huge hurry. Let's go ahead and just seek power for blue. Play our blue. Cirso's Cleaver plays Feeding Time. And then we kill Jotun Feast color. And we're good to go. Time source here will allow me to Temple Scribe. That'll gain me up to about 12. It'll also draw me a card, which I think is really useful here.
It's written right here.
Ayan the Abductor is a good drop-in. Aurelian Merchant here. I could grab any number of things, including Cirso's Cleaver, but I don't think that I actually want to play Aurelian Merchant here, just because I want to keep... I've got a couple options. I can use End of the Line to pop both Aegises. I can play Ayan the Abductor and Aurelian Merchant, but I think I'm actually really comfy with what's in my hand, so we probably want to try and find like a power or something that we don't want to trade for Aurelian Merchant and keep as much power open as possible here. I think I'll just go ahead and leave Ironthorn back. It's pretty easy to corrupt whatever he aims at Ironthorn, so we feel pretty comfy with that, as long as it's not like a permafrost. Okay, easy block. So, simple draw for Jotun Feast color, but doesn't really do anything. Huh, double Hailstorm. Alright. That will kill Ironthorn. I can corrupt that? What? How can I corrupt that? That doesn't make any sense. I guess it's only on one of my units, so... Well, it wouldn't make sense to corrupt it here, so I think we'll just stay put. I'm just gonna throw down Ayan. I'm not sure if that's a bug or an intentional gameplay thing. So I could have played that power, or I could have actually used Aurelian Merchant to trade that power for something, but I think I'm going to go for 8 here, grab back Marshal Ironthorn, attack for 3, and Aurelian Merchant can either trade End of the Line, which is pretty useful here, seeing as End of the Line only pops Aegises, or I can do other things. I think I'm just going to go End of the Line, trade it in for a New Tomorrow, so we can cast New Tomorrow and get completely ahead of this. That way, even if I get a Zindil's Gifted or anything like that, we have a really, really solid response. Okay. Permafrost is fine. 8 of the Hooru is great. I'm going to go ahead and New Tomorrow first.
We must rebuild.
And that gets us Progress, Mystery, Wisdom, Progress, Vengeance, lots and lots of stuff. But now we have a lot of extra power, and we still have the Corrupt available, which is really nice. Second A to the Hooru? Yeah, that's probably on top. So we just gotta do this a bunch. Ah, the excitement of repeating animations. Alright, so I've got 26 power, Mask of Torment's looking pretty good. Touch of the Umbren looks amazing. Corrupt here, I think it just pops the Aegis at this point. So maybe we just stay put. I'll take the 8. Yeah, I think we want to Corrupt at a turn where we've actually got the Channel the Tempest popped. So if he's playing Channel the Tempest, we're going to hold on to Corrupt here, and we're just going to use 8 of the Hooru to draw ourselves some cards that can pop his Aegis. Banish could do it if he had a power source. Temple Scribe here. Yeah, I'll play a Mask of Tormentor. Mask of Torment. Strategize can get me a Banish effect. There's End of the Line, that's the card I'm looking for. So now I just go ahead and... I don't think I need Aurelian Merchant for anything. It's useful to grab like an Azindel's Gift in case I get overwhelmed by... Yeah, grab a Disjunction for an Azindel's Gift. So let's pop his Aegis. That sadly does not leave me with power open to Corrupt Channel the Tempest, but I'm not feeling too bothered by that. Huh. Black Sky Harbinger's a good one for him. I'm going to go ahead and touch the Umbren that. I think I'm actually just going to 8 of the Hooru again. Second New Tomorrow, that's pretty funny. We could certainly play all of our power at this point, or we could trade New Tomorrow for something useful like Cirso's Cleaver, which I think is actually probably the better play. So we'll trade New Tomorrow for a Cirso's Cleaver or a Mask. I kind of like the second Mask here. Go ahead and play it. I could use Aurelian Merchant here to trade for a Disjunction or something along those lines. Like we've got this game pretty much in the bag, so whatever we want to do is probably fine. But I've got 3 masks. I've got 8 of the Hooru. I think I'm feeling pretty comfy here. Yeah, let's keep our current hand setup and just be happy with that. Strategize, that's fine. The one thing this deck doesn't do terribly well is pop Face Aegis and pop Unit Aegis. I've considered playing like some more Hailstorms or some more like cards that actually deal damage to our opponent's face, but in general there just isn't really the space to fit them most of the time, and there's not a lot of reasons to go after my opponent's face. It does matter for cards like Corrupt, but you know, that's totally fine as well. Okay. Temple Scribe here, that's pretty good.
It's written right here.
Gain ourselves like a good 3 power. Touch of the Umbren here. And we'll go ahead and hatch one of our Tormentors.
I am free.
If I'd ambushed Ayan, that would have been lethal, but we were talking about something else at the moment, so. Anyways. Made a couple of mistakes this round, but overall this was pretty easy to take hold of the game. We got a second Black Sky Harbinger here, which is great. Yep, more Hailstorms coming down, that's fine too. I've still got a Tormentor, I still got his Black Sky. I think we're pretty comfy. Okay, Ironthorn can blow everything up, or I can steal his Black Sky, which is actually lethal, so we'll do that.
I am free.
Death by his own Black Skies. Good stuff. Very, very fun. Thanks everyone so much for watching. I'm including here a cheaper list, a 3-color list, blue, yellow, and green, with sort of our standard Ironthorn type setup using Aurelian Merchant to get ourselves into a much better situation. This one only runs 8 legendaries, 2 of which are in the market, Great Parliament and A New Tomorrow. And then we run 2 8 of the Hooru because 8 of the Hooru is way too much fun, and 4 Marshal Ironthorn to help us get our ramp going. Beyond that, we've replaced the Mask of Torments with Memento Moris, Aurelian Merchant still in here to do some ramping. There's a couple of change-ups like Savage Denial and Hailstorm to take the place of cards like Banish and Corrupt, and get us into a better situation as far as just denying certain things such as Stand Together go. We're running harsh rules instead of the end of story, and Channel the Tempest instead of our 8-cost steel Touch of the Umbren, all of which are pretty easy changes to make when you're trying not to do the life force part of the deck and you're going for just a simpler synergy of ramp plus big ol' spells. This deck is, of course, very fun to play. It's fun and greedy and silly. It's not as greedy as our previous deck, and it's not as legendary rich, which makes it just a decent, simple, good place to start and a baseline for crafting a Greedthorn deck if you're looking for something along those lines. That's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and have a really, really good night, everyone. Feel free to like and subscribe if you like the video. I'm on Twitch and YouTube, and I'm glad to see you in either of those places. So have a really good night and see you all next time. Cheers.